All right, guys. Back at it here with another video today, and this one's kind of near and dear to my heart, and I've got to say something about it because I have a friend that I'm very concerned about, and that's about an addiction. Now, I've known my friend Killian since 2005, since high school. So going on 20 years. That's our friendship, how long I've known her. And I recently reconnected with her after 10 years. And I found out something, and I had to have this conversation with her. And she is the last person on the face of the earth that I should ever have to have this conversation with. And you're probably asking, when I bring up addiction, are you talking about heroin, methamphetamine, PCP, fentanyl, opioids, marijuana, or even alcohol? No, that's not what type of addiction she's battling. She's battling smoking. After 10 years, I found out that my friend Killian took up smoking. And every day, and the more information that I learned from her about how this affects her health, her lifestyle, the more upset I became. And it got to the point where I had to remove myself from the situation because her addiction is so strong that she has chosen the cigarette over everything else. Her friends, her pets, her family, her own health. She chooses the addiction over everything else. And when I looked on her Facebook and I saw things, I saw the picture of her cat. She has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 packs of cigarettes, one lighter for each pack. And then I look over and she's an artist. She does art and music. It is so bad. Her addiction is so bad that you can see tobacco in all of her pictures on Facebook, even in her own artwork. There's tobacco everywhere. She's reading a children's book. There's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 packs of cigarettes here. And on the other side of the table, not only does she smoke cigarettes, but cigarillos, which are an in-between of a cigarette and a cigar. Another picture on the left here, she's got 7 boxes of Hint cigarillos. Now you're probably wondering, why am I getting on somebody? And she's 33 years old, by the way. Why am I getting on somebody about something that's perfectly legal to do? And she's a grown adult. Why am I telling somebody how to live her life? Well, Killian is not like most other people. Killian has a series of health problems that I'm afraid, if she continues to do what she does, will kill her. So, for starters, she is visually impaired, so smoking doesn't help with that. Now, the biggest thing here, and this is where I'm going to answer this question, and why am I telling somebody who's a grown adult what they should do with their life? Well, Killian has autism. And like I said, this isn't to be mean or bully or harass. This is just to make people aware of the situation, aware of what's going on with my friend. This is a plea for help. Because what she's doing to herself and not only other people, it causes a tremendous amount of pain. And we'll talk about the picture on the right. We'll get to that. But Killian has autism. And people with autism struggle. It's a psychological thing. It's a developmental disorder. So she doesn't understand what she's doing to herself like the average person, like myself or other friends who may even be battling addiction. So she doesn't know that. All she understands is that smoking the cigarette relieves her stress. and she is afraid of how she's going to cope without cigarettes. But we'll get to part two of that here. Killian is also obese. She's a little overweight, and I'm not being mean about it. Everybody's a little overweight. I could lose weight, but that's something that doesn't help her situation. Killian has hyperglycemia, which means she has low blood sugar, and she's not a diabetic. She also has chronic pain, fibromyalgia. And like I said, the more and more I learned, the more hurt I became to see her in this situation. And she also has sleep apnea, which is a breathing disorder. She has to use a CPAP machine to help her sleep at night. So these are all things that she should be aware of, that, hey, smoking is going to diminish your health. But no, she doesn't understand that. But what had recently happened is in 2020, Killian contracted COVID-19, and unfortunately, she was one of those 1%ers who, despite her age, ended up being hospitalized for COVID-19 for 2 weeks and being put on a ventilator. And most people that have a life or death health situation like this wake up and say, hey, what am I doing here? I have to make better lifestyle changes in order to live. My grandmother was an example. She was a heavy smoker for many years. Her and her husband, my grandfather, smoked. And it was bad. And my grandmother had a heart attack in the late 80s and had an angioplasty done. And the nurse told her, the doctors told her, they said, Beverly, you had your last cigarette. And that was her wake-up call. And after 30 years, she never touched another cigarette. My cousin was also a victim of COVID-19. He's a businessman. And a lot of his events and everything, he'd get together. And he was a cigar smoker. You know, at these kind of business meetings and parties and gatherings, you know, he would smoke cigars. He was hospitalized for about a week, and he's still dealing with the health effects of COVID. However, he sat there and he told me, he said, Jess, this was a wake-up call for me. COVID was something that I had been through health scares before, but nothing like this. And this woke me up to make lifestyle changes because I have to be there for my wife, my children, my family. I have things to live for. So he told me he put the cigars down. He hasn't touched another one. But not with Killian. Killian has a life or death event, and she still continues to smoke. And what she also doesn't understand is how this affects her friends. The friend on the left, on the right here, is showing her gratitude for Killian being alive. But what does Killian do? She continues to smoke. She continues to do things that are detrimental to her health. And how does she show her appreciation to the doctors, to the nurses that saved her life? Here she is back at this picture, smoking in front of a hospital's no smoking sign. That is how she shows her appreciation to the people that saved her life. And this picture really upset me because this was actually the hospital that one of my doctors worked at. So I found it very insulting, and I told her that. Killian makes the claims that she's stressed and she doesn't know how to handle the stress. When I look at these pictures, I don't see somebody that's stressed, that's smoking. I see somebody that's addicted. This picture on the top was staged and done on purpose. And here she is on the bottom doing peach comedy while smoking a cigarette. But I want to conclude with this. She's smoking in front of Banner Health. That's how she shows her appreciation for the doctors and nurses that saved her life. Not only that, Killian and I went to a school that was owned by Banner Health. And one of the most respectable people that worked at Howard Gray Dave Bachman, the man who gave Killian her diploma, made this statement. When you think of hospitals, you think of people saving lives. Well, we here at Banner Academy also save lives. And Howard Gray made a big impact on Killian. And I told her that this is how she shows her appreciation for the people who saved her life and tried to help her. Like I said, Killian's addiction is so bad. I've tried everything to try and help my friend of 20 years. I showed her this picture on the left, and I told her the story of my cousin and my grandmother. And I said, Killian, you should look at this picture, and this should be your motivation, that you should never want to be in this chair again. You never want to be in this situation again. And share this with people that you care and love, that you want to spread your word to about this horrible addiction. And it makes me so sad. And I can't speculate or say for certain, but when I look in Killian's right hand, right here, it almost looks like she's holding a lighter. That's how addicted she is. The picture on the bottom shows you how much she smokes, that the tar, the nicotine, gets underneath her fingernails. Her addiction is so bad that she has even admitted to pulling cigarette butts out of ashtrays and on the ground. But once again, Killian doesn't understand the health implications of that. You don't know whose mouth has been on what cigarette. But that's just how addicted she is. Killian refuses to take advice from her friends, family, acquaintances. And nothing can be done to help Killian because Killian doesn't try. Killian refuses to take advice from friends and family. And Killian just loves smoking, but she won't openly say it. She's been given the advice of weaning off cigarettes, trying gum, nicotine patches, and even vape. She's even been given advice, Killian, you need to keep your lungs in perfect working order in case you get COVID again. Even her own father tried to give her advice, and she's pushed him away. In fact, Killian liked smoking so much that in college, she gave a special shout out to the Great Cigar Man. She mentions in college how she loved her teachers and friends, but one person in particular stood out to her. She even gave him that nickname, the Great Cigar Man, because he gave her a cigar, and she smoked it in honor of him. Well, Great Cigar Man, I hope that you're listening and watching this video, and you see what happened to Killian, her being on a ventilator and her health declining. I hope that you see this and you understand the consequences of your actions. A true friend would never do this to somebody, and Killian doesn't know better. But it was people that she was around who got her into this. And Killian doesn't even try. Like I said before, a life and death event would be a trigger for anybody to sit there and say, put down the cigarette. But not for Killian. Killian tried to quit 4 months after she was in the hospital. She tells people that it's her first day quitting tobacco. And she tells people to wish her luck. And then 2 hours later, she says she caved and had 2 cigarettes. Killian reached out to me in June and said, I'm going to try quitting. I messaged her the following day and asked her how it went. She told me she caved and had 2 cigarettes. Killian tried a 3rd time, which we'll get to towards the end of this video. And she caved the first day. But I have tried to do everything. I have spent hours talking to Killian about it. I tried to hold her hand. I tried to give her uplifting, motivational guidance. I said, Killian, you can do this. Don't ever give up. I told Killian that she should even seek advice from her therapist and or doctors, since they're better equipped to help with these type of situations than I can. But Killian refuses because she knows the doctors are going to tell her the same thing that I would, if not more. I even tried to do tough love with Killian. I told her how it was. I said, if you don't quit, you're going to end up going back to the hospital, or even worse, getting cancer or dying. And what frustrates me the most is that out of the 750 friends that Killian has, I'm the only one that sees this as a serious problem. People aren't aware of these things that are going on with Killian. But to be fair, and to put it in Killian's perspective, she tells me she's not in a good place to quit. I told her that was bullshit. That was the addict talking. Killian, you weren't in a good place 2 years ago when you contracted COVID to be smoking. You should have tried quitting 2 years ago. Then Killian says, you're pressuring me. Killian, nobody can make you do anything that you don't want to do. I can't make you quit smoking by force. I can't take away your cigarettes. Only you can make those choices to have a better, healthy lifestyle. Only you. I can give you motivational advice. I can give you tough love. I can give you the facts. But only you, Killian, can do anything. There is no pressure. Nobody's telling you anything's going to happen. The only thing that's going to happen is if she continues to do what she's doing. She will get worse. She will develop more health problems. But as I said, the more and more I learned, the more upset I became. Not only as a health standpoint, but a financial. Killian told me that she spends $168 on her habit every single month. That's 20% of her income. I'm not going to go into all the details, but I will say that she spends 20% of her income on cigarettes. And because of that, Killian has to find work. She's on a fixed income. She's on disability. And she has these health issues. But if Killian would quit smoking, she wouldn't have to do what she's doing right now. And what breaks my heart is that she told me that she has to go to food banks because she doesn't have enough money to buy food because she smokes. I thought we had a breakthrough with Killian 2 weeks ago. She tells me that she threw out her tobacco and cigarettes, which was something I thought she would never do. And she was having her art show. And she even sent me a picture of her art, lungs of a non-smoker. That's when I really thought that Killian was all in this. She was ready to do this. And I was so proud of her. I wanted to hold her hand through this whole process, but she wouldn't let me. So she has the art show. And not only that, her art sold for $35, coincidentally to a respiratory therapist. She was so happy doing her art show, showing off her sensory boxes. And as I left the art show, I said, Killian, I'm leaving. Can I have a quick word with you outside? And 3 days had gone by, and I thought she hadn't have a cigarette. She did, however, get a vape, which I said was okay, or other people had advised her to do to help wean off cigarettes. So I go outside, and I give Killian a hug, and I tell her I'm so proud of her. I said, don't ever give up. And Killian knows. Killian met my mother, and my mom died of cancer back in 2010. And I told Killian that if my mom was still alive, she would want me to do this. She would want you to quit cigarettes. So I gave her a hug, and I left. And a few days later, Killian started acting strangely. I said, what happened? What's going on? And she tells me she caved and bought a pack of cigarettes. Not only that, Killian lied to me. Killian said that she had quit, that she threw out all of her tobacco and cigarettes, but the addiction got the best of her. On the first day that she told me she threw out her cigarettes, she found tobacco on the floor and smoked it. Not only that, Killian failed to even tell me that she had ordered a free carton of Marlboro Menthol Smooths online. It was one lie after another, something that was so uncharacteristic of my friend of 20 years. And Killian's addiction is so strong. I told her, I said, Killian, I think that your addiction is so bad that if you had to choose between our friendship of 20 years and a pack of 20 cigarettes, you would choose the cigarettes. And that's what Killian did. I need space, Jess, until I quit, and quit for a long time. That is the most selfish thing that she had said to me. I wasn't mad that Killian slipped. I was mad that Killian lied. Not once, not 2 times, not 3 times, but 4. And not only that, Killian, like I said, has a fixed income. So she makes money selling her art. So she sold the picture of lungs of a non-smoker to a respiratory therapist, coincidentally, for $35. And I asked her, I said, Killian, did you use the donations and proceeds from your art show to buy cigarettes? And she said yes. So she used the money from the sale of her artwork. And as an artist, you make your pictures, you do your art based on what inspires you. This was a lie. But I'm afraid that we will lose Killian. And I told her that. I said, the next time I see you, it will either be at the hospital or at your funeral. I told her. But as I said, I've done everything that I can. And I did this on purpose. I told her, don't contact me anymore. And I did this for a reason. Because I want Killian, the next time that she picks up a cigarette, to sit there and think, what the hell did I do? I just threw away a relationship of 20 years for a pack of cigarettes. And that's my hope, that maybe that will give her the motivation to quit once and for all. And that's how much I care for this person, that I would walk away from this if it meant her quitting cigarettes. I would tell her or end the friendship just so that it would give her the motivation to quit. But that's addiction. It makes you do things that are out of the normal. And unfortunately, Killian may have to learn this the hard way. But I tried. I did everything I could. And I have no guilt.